let's take a look at our top selections for Dan Illman, Mike Beer kicking off a 50-cent late pick 4 at Belmont Park on Super Saturday. Lots of Breeders' Cup preview prep races, including race number 8, the Grade 1 Flower Bowl Invitational. Let's take a peek at this field. We've got some fillies and mares going 1.25 miles on the inner turf. No Sister Charlie this year. That doesn't mean Chad Brown isn't going to be well represented. He has the 1 Cambier Park 5-2 on David Aragona's morning line. My Sister Nat, the number 2, 3-1 on David Aragona's morning line. Nay Lady Nay, 7-2 on David Aragona's morning line. Chad's still loaded.
Always loaded in these races. He doesn't have Sister Charlie this year, but he's got, I guess, the next best thing. Her little sister, My Sister Nat, is the 2. Yeah, and all 3 of his horses just kind of make a lot of sense in this race, Dan.
Let's throw up the Timeform U.S. Pace Projector, perhaps an edge to the 1, Cambier Park, because she does have early speed. You know, I'm a big fan of Cambier Park, and maybe I've made a mistake in sort of downgrading her chances a little bit in this race, because last time out in the Canadian, while I fully expected her to win at a relatively short price, she was coming off a 9-month layoff, and as we turn into the stretch, Cambier Park had to make a little bit of a mid-move. I thought she'd be a little bit more forwardly placed. She has the lead. She's going to get run down by a horse I know you liked a lot at 22-1.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, Dan, and I'm not as big a fan of Cambier Parks as you are, but all things considered, you know, considering how long she was away and going 1.5 miles through this long stretch, I mean, she ran fine in here. She gets tired at the end of this race, but it's worth pointing out, she attended a very solid pace right from the start of that race. I mean, they were moving right along up the backstretch. She was wide and keeping after that pace the entire way. You know, all in all, I think she did a lot of work there for a horse coming off of a very long layoff, and I think it's probably going to serve her well as they stretch her out a little bit here.
Yeah, they're going to stretch her out to 1.25 miles, and I wonder, are you a little bit concerned about that? She ran really well at 1 1/8 miles, and I think that's her wheelhouse distance. That's the win of the QE2 where she got the Candy Trip on the lead, the Del Mar Oaks when she came from well out of it, and the Wonder again at Belmont. Do you think 1.25 miles is a little far, or do you think if Johnny V just gets to the lead and walks the dog, hey, she'll get it no problem?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't worried about the distance with her, if only because she's so good at 1 1/8 miles, obviously. But, you know, they ran her at 1.25 miles once last year, and the distance didn't get her beat that day. She ran into 2 horses that are just better than she is, and she finished 3rd. The distance did not beat her in the Belmont Oaks.
And she has tactical speed. Now, conversely, My Sister Nat, the number 2, is a true 1-run closer, and she might actually want a little bit longer than 1.25 miles. She just missed last time out in the Glens Falls. There was just no pace on for her, and she actually ran quite well.
She did, and it just sort of felt like that the trips and the pace got her beat last time, because, and I'm not knocking Civil Union in any way, who's a very lightly raced horse and who keeps improving, but the trips made all the difference in there. My Sister Nat just couldn't keep as close to the pace as Civil Union did, and then she couldn't catch that horse on the stretch, but this horse actually ran pretty well last time.
And it might be a similar situation here because Civil Union just simply has that sort of tactical speed. Let's watch the Glens Falls. Civil Union just found the pocket early on the backstretch, and you see her tipping 3 wide on the green cap, and she's just going to get the jump on My Sister Nat, who's going to be rolling late in there. Civil Union grinds it out to win. Like My Sister Nat, I do wonder, even though Civil Union has a win at 1.25 miles, if she actually wants a little more ground.
Yeah, I wonder about that too, because you can just see right there, even though she had the jump on My Sister Nat, she just stays very strongly in her races. It feels like more distance actually works to her advantage. But she's so tactical, Dan, that you just sort of feel like maybe she falls into another good trip here, and she's obviously in good form right now.
It's really a fascinating race from a distance standpoint. We have a few horses that we could qualify as tweeners. La Signare up next to number 4, maybe 1.25 miles is a little long for her. She's won at 1 1/8 miles, but after they ran her in the Belmont Oaks last year, it just seemed like Brian Lynch and then Brendan Walsh have made a concerted effort to keep her at shorter distances. I thought she ran well last time out in the Distaff Turf Mile at Churchill. Bull Recall, Newspaper of Record are very good, and La Signare was not giving up any ground to them in the stretch.
That's true. I mean, you know, I think all 3 of her last races, or her last 3 races since they come back from their layoff, I think you could say that she hasn't exactly gotten lucky, maybe in any of them. Certainly in the Mint Julep, she had a lot of traffic. The Jenny Wiley just had no pace, and they rated her to the back of that field. I was a little disappointed, I guess, in her race last time. Not that I thought that she was going to win, but she did, get to the stretch ahead of Bo Recall and just was sort of no match for that horse in that spot. I know Bo Recall is actually really good. I was just a little disappointed in La Señori's effort last time. I don't know if she'll get this distance or not, Dan, but I think she can get a good trip in this race, and I don't think she's impossible in here.
We took a look at the pace projector, and Bo Bell, the 5, is not expected to be out there. I wouldn't be surprised if Luis Saez says, listen, we got a graded stakes placing last time out going to the front. Why not do it again? She's kind of an unlikely winner on paper. I mean, listen, she couldn't have had an easier setup last time out, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I have a feeling Cambier Park will be just happy sitting in the pocket behind her.
Yeah, I mean, if she was mine and Luis Saez is riding again and he likes to be aggressive, I just feel like I would just put her on the lead and see what happens. That's what they did last time. She was taking pressure from a long way out in that spot from Lovely Lucky, who's also back in this race. And I thought they both actually stayed pretty gamely down to deep stretch. And neither one of them were good enough to win that race, but they both ran fine, in my opinion.
Let's watch Nay Lady Nay for Chad Brown. She's won 4 out of her last 5, including this race, the All Along at Laurel. Chad just found a great spot, and she had a nice pocket trip. And not only was she in behind a big, long shot, Habuda Kaba, who is class compromised, but the rail opened up and she shot on through. I do really like the way she finished this race off, Mike. I mean, she's really reaching out for ground.
Yeah, too good for these horses. And it's true that she just got a perfect trip in behind and then the rail opened up. But that doesn't matter. I mean, she could have went around those horses and won just as easily. She was just too good for that field. Listen, this is a real class test for this filly. And, you don't know if she'll get the 1.25 miles. I was less worried about that. I just keep looking at her, Dan. And the more I looked at her, ever since they sprinted her in her first career start, they've routed her on turf 7 times. And she's 5 for 7. She could easily be undefeated routing on turf, though. The losses in the mid-julep, off the layoff, where she did not get a good trip, a lot of traffic in the stretching, was really compromised. And then the only other loss last year where a pretty good horse in Sorrentino Lemon got loose on the slowest of slow paces, and Nay Lady Nay couldn't run her down. Other than that, she's shown up every single time. I actually feel like this filly's a little underrated.
And while a lot of folks may question the 1.25 miles because her sire is more known for getting sprint types, you do have the English Channel on the bottom. And I think if you reasonably assess the race, you say, if she's going to get a 1.25 miles, it's going to be in a field like this with a lot of question marks.
Yeah, I certainly looked at the race that way. I do think she could be a little underrated. She's not meeting, the strongest field in the world in this spot. And I just like the way Chad sort of brought her along. He hasn't really rushed her. Has plenty of options. He has so many horses in this division that he's just given this filly a lot of time, and I think she's really responded.
Lovely Lucky completes the field, and she's really improved in her last couple of races. She was dangled for a $75,000 tag 3 starts back, but she really wants extra distance. She looked good winning that allowance race at Saratoga, but no excuses in the Glens Falls. She sat just off Bo Bell, and they couldn't finish with 2 horses that are going to be in here again and are likely better than them. I think she has some upside. I'm curious to see what she does later this year. This might be too tough a spot.
I mean, I kind of agree with all that. She certainly does have some upside, and she's run really well in her last 2 starts, so they stretched her out. I mean, if you wanted to give her even a small excuse for the Glens Falls, you could say that she was on the outside the entire way, and the 1, 2, 3 finishers basically all rode the inside the entire way. I don't know if that made a difference or not, Dan, but she actually ran pretty well last time.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the Grade 1 Flower Bowl, kicking off a 50-cent late pick 4 at Belmont on Saturday. You're going with Nay Lady Nay. She's the hot hand for Chad Brown right now, and her tactical speed is key. Because unlike my sister Nat, who's going to be coming from way out, she's going to be pretty close.
Yeah, that's kind of how I looked at it, Dan. I mean, I just feel like maybe she's underrated and it would be a fair price in this race. And, Cambier Park, in a lot of ways, I feel like is the horse to beat. I'm just not much of a fan of hers. I do think she's going to run better in here, though.
I have some questions about the distance, but not about the quality of the 4 La Señora. I think this is a little bit of class relief for her, actually, as she runs in the Grade 1 Flower Bowl. We'll see if she gets the distance. I'll trust Brendan Walsh. I like what I've seen from her throughout her career. 6-1-4-3 for Mike, 4-6-3-7 for me. It's the Grade 1 Flower Bowl, race 8 at Belmont on Saturday, approximate post 4:14 Eastern. Good luck.